Hi everyone! I decided to start this new series where I would make all my reading journals of the month with you guys while talking about all the books that I read. It would be a journal with me video plus a reading wrap up video. And don't worry, all of my reading wrap ups will be spoiler free so you can enjoy them even though you haven't read these books. Let's start with the first month of the year, January. So in January, I read a total of 7 books. The first one was The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. The story follows Amir, a young boy who lives in Kabul in Afghanistan, and we follow Amir's relationship with his friend Hassan. Hassan and his family works for Amir's family. This story is set up when the monarchy in Afghanistan fell, and we could see how this affected Amir's family. After a lot of things that have happened in Afghanistan, Amir and his dad decided to flee to the US, so we follow how his life progressed from there. This book includes the idea of guilt, grief, and also redemption. Let's move on to the second book that I read this year. It's Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. So, in this book, we follow Jules, who was in a bad financial situation. She was offered a job as an apartment sitter for this high profile apartment called the Bartholomew. Every resident in the Bartholomew are rich and distinguished people. There are so many weird rules that Jules had to follow as an apartment sitter. These rules include no nights spent outside of your unit, no visitors, and no talking to or disturbing other residents unless they want to talk to you. She realized that one by one, her neighbors started to go missing. The third book that I read is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This book is a dark academia book about 7 theater students in an elite Shakespearean art school, and one day, one of them was found dead. Oliver, the main character, served 10 years in prison for the alleged murder, and after he was out of prison, Detective Colborne, who worked on that case, went to Oliver to ask him what exactly happened that day. We follow the story as Oliver narrated what happened 10 years ago, and we slowly see the truth of the past unfolding and what actually happened. The fourth book that I read this year is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This book, I think, is my favorite fantasy book ever. This book is a grim, dark military fantasy book inspired by mid 20th century China, the Second Sino Japanese War, and the Song Dynasty in China. We follow Rin, who is an orphan who lives in a small town called Tikani. She wanted to escape her fate of being married off to a merchant, so she took the Keju test, which was an empire-wide test to select the best students to enter academies. Rin aced the test and made it to Sinagard, the most elite military school that trained war generals. So Rin had finally escaped her fate of being married off, but she soon finds out that life in Sinagard is extremely challenging. On top of the classes and training, Rin had to deal with a lot of bullying and mocking from her friends due to her skin color, her accent, and also her poverty. Meanwhile, the Nikara Empire, the empire that they are living in might be in danger of an invasion from the Federation of Mugen. Everyone, including the students of Sinegard, would have to prepare themselves for the possible war that is approaching them. A third Poppy War might be coming. Rin soon discovers that she possesses shamanic powers, a power that is so lethal. Please be mindful to check the trigger warnings for this book, as there are a lot of possible triggers in this book. The fifth book that I read in January is You've Reached Sam by Dustin Thao. So the story is about Julie, a 17-year-old girl. Her boyfriend, Sam, passed away. Julie was heartbroken and was dealing with intense grief. She didn't have the energy to talk to anyone or to attend his funeral. She wanted to try and forget him and his tragic death. One day, Julie missed him so much that she decided to call his number to hear his voice in the voicemail. However, an unexpected thing happened where Sam actually picked up the phone. This miraculous phone call meant that Julie was once more connected to Sam. Julie was given a second chance at goodbye. So this is the story of Julie's communication with Sam, and it discovers a lot about grief and also longing. The next book that I read was Rules for Vanishing by Kate Alice Marshall. This is a documentary style horror book. It is said to have the Fox style documentary of the Blair Witch Project. Sarah lives in this town. There has been a local horror story in the town about Lucy Gallows. It was said that a ghost road will appear once a year in the forest. The road was said to lead you to Lucy Gallows. It has been a year since Sarah's sister, Becca, went missing. Sarah believed that Becca went to find Lucy Gallows and didn't come back. Exactly 1 year after Becca vanished, Sarah receives a text inviting her to play the game and walk on the ghost road. Sarah decided to do it as she believed that Becca was still there on the road. The road has its set of rules, and breaking them would bring serious consequences. The last book that I read in January is The Ghost of Heaven by Marcus Sedgwick. This is a genre bending book that contains 4 different stories about individuals from different time periods. All these 4 individuals are interconnected in a way. The first story is about a young girl in the Paleolithic era when she went to the caves to hunt for the first time. The second one takes place during the witch hunts in the 17th century. The third story took place in the 1920s in an insane asylum. The last story follows a futuristic world where the main character is in a spaceship that is voyaging to find another home for humans. So those are the books that I read in January. Do let me know if you have read any of these and what your thoughts are on them. My favorite read of the month is definitely The Poppy War, followed by If We Were Villains. What did you read this month? What was your favorite read of the month? Let me know, and I will see you again next week. Bye!